How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge. Today is May 24th, 2021, and today we're going to focus on the potential major severe weather outbreak that's going to impact a lot of the Midwest this week. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather records. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather records. So let's begin by taking a look at the current radar right now. I'm recording this right around 7:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so it is relatively late when we're talking about we're talking about severe weather, because typically during this time we typically either see severe weather maybe peak or just past the peak, because of course when we're headed into the darker hours there's less unstable air in the atmosphere due to the lack of shortwave radiation from the sun. But you see, for the most part, most of the United States is quiet. However, we are seeing some areas of thunderstorms throughout Kansas that I think some of them are severe at this point. We do have a little bit of a shortwave trough located right around Colorado that's bringing a strong southerly flow. That's bringing a lot of humid air further northward. However, the thing is that while there is a strong southerly flow bringing a lot of that Gulf of Mexico humid air further northward, the thing is that there isn't really anything that's triggering a lot of convection in this region, despite the very high dew points at this time. And the main reason why is because of the temperatures. If we take a look at the current temperature readings throughout the United States, you see that there isn't a lot of unstable air throughout the Midwest as of right now, because most of the Midwest is pretty much centered right around the 80 to 70 degree range, and that really isn't enough of a stark contrast in terms of temperature to really trigger severe weather or just rapid convection or very buoyant air molecules. And while there is some instability further to the west coast of the Rocky Mountains, it doesn't really have much to do with this oncoming front that's moving through the United States, and more has to do with the elevation, because of course you see more of the cooler temperatures right around the higher elevations of the Rocky Mountains, and it's not really necessarily a direct result of the front moving through the United States. So as a result, we're not seeing a ton of unstable air throughout the United States to really trigger a lot of thunderstorm activity as of right now. So while it is very humid currently, it isn't enough to really induce a very potent severe weather threat outside of those in Kansas, where you guys are already experiencing some severe weather right around Kansas. So you need to watch out for that. Large hail could certainly be the issue, and damaging winds, and possibly a tornado, as that's certainly not out of the question, because there could be strong low-level shear as a result of a boundary zone that's moving through of a gust front that's gonna be induced by some of these thunderstorms. And typically, when we see a gust front in front of a thunderstorm, that typically means that there's going to be strong low-level shear that could maybe induce some tornadoes due to the strong wind shear in the lower levels of the atmosphere. So you need to keep in mind of the threat of thunderstorms. However, I will say that if we move forward, there could maybe be an enhanced risk of thunderstorm activity, because of course when we get closer to nighttime, those temperatures will cool down and more of that humid air will begin to condense and we'll see more precipitation. But I don't expect severe weather to get much more severe than what it is right now. If we were to take a look at the current severe weather outbreak over for today, you see that when it comes to overall, when it comes to severe weather, you see that there's mainly a slight risk throughout the Panhandle in Texas, extending to Kansas, Nebraska, and Colorado. There's a little bit of front moving through, bringing cooler temperatures, which could induce just some severe weather, as well as a surface low, which could maybe create some wind shear and at least some unstable air in this region to create a thunderstorm threat. So we need to keep that in mind certainly for today. However, I do expect it to wind down as the day goes on. If we take a look at day 2, the severe weather risk definitely does get even more limited. If we were to take a look at the computer models to see the reason exactly why, it's mainly because there won't be as much unstable air really in the atmosphere, because you see that For today, the low pressure that's centered over southern Canada is bringing strong northwesterly winds to this region, which is at least inducing a little bit of severe weather, but that will change going forward because that low pressure will move a little bit further northward and it won't have as much of a there won't be as much unstable air as a result of that, as because the jet stream will sort of straighten out as it heads further and further eastward, because there's a pretty strong blocking ridge over the southeast United States, so it's going to straighten out the jet stream to limit the severe weather threat throughout this region. However, we need to keep in mind of the next trough that's going to move through. It's going to be a mid-level trough, and it's going to bring some cold air behind it, and thanks to the strong southerly flow that's going to be induced by this ridge that's located in the southeast, those dew points will still be very high for a lot of this week throughout the Midwest. So if we are to take a look at the relative humidity over the next couple of days, taking a look at today, you see that there's a lot of a decent amount of humid air in the atmosphere throughout the Midwest, and we do see drier air on the backside of this front. However, it isn't really overtaking the humid air. If we were to take a look forward, you see that since there's going to be a strong southerly flow, it's going to absorb some of that moisture further southward and bring it further up northward, and that could really create the next severe weather threat for a lot of the Midwest headed into the 3 to 4 day mark, where we do see that trough absorb some of the more humid areas further southward, with a more humid air that's further southward, and we do see a lot of humid air as a direct result of this trough. So we need to keep a close eye on it. If we were to take a look at the Cape levels, based off of what the GFS model is saying, taking a look at that, which gives a good idea of how much lift in the atmosphere. If you're new, Cape pretty much means convective available potential energy. If you were to take a look at that over the next several days, you see there's a little bit of convective available potential energy, but if we move forward, it does increase to a decent amount right around 36-hour mark. So you need to watch out despite the limited severe weather. But you see heading into the 3 day mark, we see a lot of lift in the atmosphere in the southern Midwest, which really shows that the air molecules are going to be very buoyant. There's going to be a decent amount of unstable air to maybe induce the next severe weather threat throughout the southeast. So Texas, Oklahoma, and even those further northward needs to pay close attention to this, because you could see an influx of moisture that could induce just very high severe weather threat. And you see that right around 3 day mark, we do see Cape levels headed into close to the 4,000 range, which is quite a lot of convective available potential energy and a lot of lift in the atmosphere that certainly could produce large hail and damaging winds throughout the Midwest. So is something to watch. And then even moving forward to day 4 mark, we see more convective available potential energy. So it's going to be interesting one to watch over the next several days. You see that moving forward, you see that as the trough moves through, there's going to be just enough unstable air in this region to create very buoyant air molecules to allow that humid air located over Texas to rise up into the atmosphere and create the next severe weather threat. And the Storm Prediction Center agrees with that, because if we head into the 3 day mark, you're going to see that the severe weather risk certainly increases. If we were to take a look at that, you see that day 3, the severe weather threat is highest right around Kansas, Nebraska, and Wyoming, and that severe weather threat could move further southward if we go beyond the day 4 mark. Of course, there's more uncertainty when we go beyond 4 days, but I think there certainly is a pretty good chance that we could see severe weather throughout the Midwest and further southward this week, especially since Cape levels are this high. There's still time for the computer models to iron out the forecasts. However, based off of what we're seeing, and based off of what's typical for this time of the year when we see a mid-level trough move through the United States, it's pretty much almost a given we're going to see at least some sort of severe weather in the Midwest. So you guys need to pay close attention to this, because I think this could maybe be major if all the right conditions play out, and it really all depends on how much northwesterly winds are going to is this next trough going to bring? Because if it's a little stronger, then we could see stronger northerly winds that could bring that colder air further southward and create a more unstable environment for the Midwest to create a bigger severe weather threat. However, if the amount of northerly winds or unstable air is limited, then the severe weather threat should as well be limited throughout the Midwest. So this is certainly something to keep in mind. And I think hail should certainly be the possibility and damaging winds. And I think a severe weather threat should be likely throughout the Midwest. So if you're in the Midwest, I'd say prepare for the worst because it seems pretty likely a severe weather threat will happen. If we were to take a look at the rainfall forecast throughout the Midwest, you see that there's a pretty large area of 2 to 3 inches. It isn't as much rain we've been experiencing, let's say, in the southeast as before, but it's certainly enough in some areas to maybe induce some flooding. So if you live near a river that's close to overtopping its banks, you need to stay alert about that and prepare as if your house is about to get flooded, because it's better to be safe than sorry in these situations, especially when it comes to severe weather or something that could potentially be life-threatening if you don't take the right precautions. So keep that in mind. In terms of my severe weather risk over next week, I'm forecasting moderate severe weather throughout the Midwest, which extends to Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and even South Dakota and Wyoming should get involved in severe weather for this week. And while I haven't put Missouri and Arkansas and those further southward in severe weather threat yet. Since that forecast goes beyond 4 days out, I'm willing to bet that severe weather risk will move further southeastward later once the computer models gain more confidence with this. It's pretty much over the forecast over the next 3 days, so this could easily change. And I want you guys to make sure that the forecast is certainly subject to change, as even in the Midwest, but still you guys need to stay prepared for this, especially when we're 3 days out, because when we're talking about forecasts that's below 3 days out, then that means it's more likely than not going to happen, and the computer models at that point are very confident. It's not until we go beyond 4 days where the computer models become a little bit more uncertain. So we need to just stay tuned to our local forecast. We need to stay tuned to computer models and the new data that comes in to really determine how severe what severe weather outbreak will be for this week. And like I said, I listed large hail, damaging winds. I say tornadoes as a possible threat throughout the Midwest because there's going to be a decent amount of shear. There's going to be a decent amount of shear as a result of these troughs moving through. Where if we move forward, let's take a look at the shear right in this area. You're going to see that there's a pretty stark contrast when it comes to wind direction, where you see this wind direction come directly from the south along surface, but it changes quickly in the upper levels, where we do see that wind direction shift more from westerly direction. So a tornado threat could certainly be possible, especially with the right amount of unstable air. So we need to keep close eye on this, and I want you guys to stay safe and stay tuned to your local forecast. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more about Larry content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more about Larry content. And I hope you guys have a good day.